Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the April 2024 meeting of CPO 1. We always start our meetings with a land acknowledgement. Ike, I believe, is now the host, so you can let people in and do all that stuff. There's Bruce Bartlett in person at Cedar Grove. I'm Virginia Bruce, Chair of CPO 1. And we will share our screen for our land acknowledgement. Whoops. No, we won't. Turn that off. I need to make sure I've got the right thing up. We're so professional around here. There we are. We acknowledge the people on whose land we live, the Aphalati Kalapuyans, also known as the Tualatin Band of Kalapuyans, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We are grateful for the land we are on, Kalapuyan land. Signers of the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 were removed from their homelands to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Today, their descendants are tribal members of Grand Ronde and Celeste tribes, carrying on the traditions and cultures of their ancestors. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their continuation in our community. I invite all of us to reflect on the role government has played in the painful colonial history and reflect as well on the resilience and healing of the indigenous land and communities. We invite everyone to collaborate and work together with the tribe to take care of the land and water and the people who inhabit these spaces. And one of the reasons, we do it because it's the right thing to do, but it also reminds us that the CPO system was designed to help take care of the land and the water and the people. So we feel a good deal of identification with this land acknowledgement. We have this evening's program is about your May ballot. We have representatives from a number of organizations who have bond measures and tax measures on the ballot. But we ended up having a shorter program than what we had anticipated. And for that reason, we're stretching the beginning part and hearing a little bit more from our service providers. And that's what we're going to start with now. We have added our representatives to the list of service providers. And one of them is Pam Treese, our county commissioner. And Pam, if you're ready, I'm going to call on you first.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Virginia. It's been a while since I've been here, and I apologize for my absence. It's wonderful to see many of you again. As far as what's going on in the county, I think, the biggest thing right now is the fact that we're getting ready for budgets, and May is budget month. So that's a big focus for us during this year with the budget committees and with everybody else that's involved in the process. So I would encourage you to tune in. I would encourage you to ask questions, get in contact with me if you have issues in relationship to the budget or questions in relationship to the budget. Now's the time to do that. The actual budget is not released yet. It will be released in, I think it's about a week and a half. But nonetheless, we are still, all the departments are working toward making sure that all of their numbers are in place, and we will be addressing the questions and looking at the revenue streams as well as the expense streams. The one thing that I mentioned to Virginia that I wanted to tell people is that on Friday of last week, we were presented, we being Washington County, and specifically the library system, was presented with a $10,000 check from PGE Foundation at the West Slope Library. And the reason that what motivated that donation was the fact that so many people in District 2 had, especially in District 2, had damage after the storm and had power outages, and just, we all know friends and we all probably have family that have had damage to their home, that were inconvenienced, that it was a difficult time. And in talking with PGE, I asked if they would be willing to consider making a donation to our library system, and they responded very positively. And we're going to be using the $10,000 to digitize or make ebooks available, more ebooks available to our juvenile, or the young adults, and the children's books. We have a good backlog for adult books, but we need to work on making sure we raise up the number of ebooks that are available to our younger residents in Washington County. So that's those are just some issues that have come up and that are fresh in my mind. Does anyone have any questions for me? Virginia, may I have a couple more minutes if there is a question? Or Bruce?
Yeah, I'm curious what the general state of the budget is. Last year, there were percentage cuts sort of across the boards with varying degrees. Are we looking forward to the same kind of cuts this year?
We are, but we're not. It'll probably be in the 4% range, Bruce. But that is, again, it's really dependent upon the situation. But we're working hard to make sure that those cuts are well thought out, and we approach in a very careful way.
So once the budget is released sometime this month, will there be a public comment period to react to it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, your budget meetings are open, so that you can comment during the budget meeting process. So that's available, and the schedule for the meetings is on the website. So we have the main budget, and then we have street lighting, we have your North Bethany roads. There's a lot of different pieces that go together to make up the budget, but it is available. Yeah. And go ahead, Virginia.
I was very excited to see that the state legislature managed to fund our mental health services provider facilities, 2 of them.
The Center for Addiction and Treatment and Triage.
Reading from the board agenda that they're picking the final names, and one's going to be the Beaverton Service Center, and the one's going to be the Hillsborough Service Center. And I think that's going to go a long way towards working with people experiencing homelessness, among other things. So
we're working very, very hard to bring together all of the funding streams for we call it the CAT, and the state we actually did many tours of the CAT locations for our state legislators and for others to make sure that they understood exactly what we're trying to accomplish here in Washington County. And I think our efforts were were not in vain. We did get the I think it was 8.5 million from them for that. So no, it was more than that. I don't know the exact number. I think it was closer to 13. So anyway, the point is that we did get the funding from the state. And in fact, I got 2 text messages. One of them was from Representative Lisa Reynolds, who may be here tonight, saying it passed. So she was very excited to make sure that Washington County was getting those funds. It's going to be a big impact to dealing with our behavioral health issues.
Absolutely. Really glad to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
any other questions?
I don't see any other questions, and I really appreciate your coming along. I guess that the next person on the list will be Corinne Haining from Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. And she'll be giving us an update on what's happening currently with the fire district. And then later on, she'll come back and talk about their bond measure.
Thanks, Virginia. I actually, if it's okay with you, I would just I would be willing to keep some of that time for my presentation later. It folds in nicely. I don't see that our lieutenant is on the line, so it looks like they may be on a call, but I'm happy to move it along to the next presenter and then reuse some of that time later for the presentation piece, if that's all right.
Yeah, I haven't seen any big fires around here lately, so I guess
it could very well be medical.
Well, and no, but I mean in terms of
just in general
news.
Yes.
But I know that we're coming up to window screen season, and
yes,
we're all trying to remember to keep those closed for the little ones.
Yes, we appreciate that. Yeah, keep it to 4 is right. A nationwide 4 inches or less. And some of what I have built into the presentation a bit later, just as you're mentioning, we're sort of moving out of the winter weather and season.
There we are.
I'm being swarmed by these
excellent
firefighters here.
Saved by the firefighters.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, they may have something to mention.
Yes.
We'd be happy to hear from them.
You want to sort of gather together so I get you all in, I mean, to the extent that, so here we are.
Oh gosh, we got a whole crew.
Yeah.
Terrific.
So Lieutenant Peters, if there's anything that you would like to update the group on in general, or particular calls that you all have been seeing, now's your time.
Sure. I mean, I think what's important, and I think what is very useful here is I'm actually right now a floating lieutenant. So I'm working at this station today, but I work at all the stations depending on where there's a need throughout the district. And it gives me an opportunity to see all that need as we move around. So, I'm sure that everyone is aware, has been told, but in the last year, we've gone to 20% more fires than we've gone to in the past. We're pushing 70,000 calls a year. We're busier than we've ever been, and we're exponentially growing as that goes by. And so the need for us, especially in areas where we've got high density housing, to have more crews and more rigs available so that as that need goes up and you're seeing us respond to a lot of calls, having more stations and more firefighters and more rigs within the existing stations to respond to those calls is really critical for being able to get help to people who need help when they need it.
Absolutely.
So I have a question. So I noticed that you drive a ladder truck around a lot. What's the need? What's the motivation for having a ladder truck in the in this area?
So we actually have them in different areas. So the ladder truck for this area that you will see, depending on which direction you go, is going to be truck 6-8 over in Oak Hills, or engine 6-7 in downtown Beaverton. And those are the big tiller ladder trucks. And we need those for, as you know, we are getting larger and larger quantities of vertical high density housing. So being able to have a ladder that can reach that area. Plus, truck teams do a different job than the engines. So the engines show up with all the water on them to go put the fires out. The trucks do a lot of forcible entry, cut the holes in the roofs, do a lot of search. So they're on a different program. So whenever we dispatch to a fire, you'll see that truck and then 4 engines and a battalion chief and an ambulance and a rehab and all of the resources we want to provide to the community to ensure that we can mitigate that emergency as efficiently as possible.
Corinne, I do have a question. And I think I've asked it before and I'm never quite clear. What can the TVF&R provide to the homeowner in terms of helping with smoke alarms and general carbon monoxide alarms in homes? Sometimes we get a question, you know, I don't think they're working, but I'm not sure, and I don't know how to test it. And my understanding has been that you guys will come out and help folks.
I'll actually defer to the crew on that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. When we go on a substantial amount of smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarms, especially with the carbon monoxide alarms, because we carry special equipment, which again, things that are paid for by a levy. We carry special equipment that assists us in ensuring that the level of carbon monoxide in the house is or is not present, because an alarm goes off and we want you to leave the home, but it is a lot of the time it's difficult to know is the alarm malfunctioning or not. So we'll come out for the carbon monoxide alarms, monitor the home, check the alarm. We do it for smoke detectors as well. It's not a rare thing for us to go out when we have a malfunctioning smoke detector or carbon monoxide alarm.
And you do that on request?
Yes, usually
Yeah,
it'll start beeping at you and you don't know why it's beeping at you. A lot of times though, just for educational purposes, those smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms, when you take them down and look at the back of them, they'll actually tell you what that beeping means. So it'll inform you on the back, typically if it's beeping once every 2 minutes or if it's beeping twice every 2 minutes, it'll say that that is end of life or needs a new battery or is smoke or a fire hazard. So smoke alarms typically have about a 7 to 10 year lifespan, the same with carbon monoxide alarms. So at some point in time in there, they'll usually start beeping at you to let you know it's time to replace them. That's the majority of smoke and carbon monoxide calls we go on. And a lot of times it's just not aware that on the back of the alarm, it'll tell you, or even aware that they had a lifespan.
Yeah, because having working smoke alarms keeps you guys out of business.
That's the goal.
Okay, well, I don't see any more hands up, and I really appreciate you guys joining us in person.
Yeah, of
Bruce?
course. Good to be here.
Your work is justified down there. Thank you.
Okay.
And also thanks to Cedar Grove for lending us that room once a month. It's perfect. It has a big screen so everyone can see the Zoom screen in the room. And we got a great little device in our Go Kit that allows us to see our participants and hear them. That mic is working really nicely. I could hear everybody. Thanks,
That's
guys.
great. No problem. If you don't have any other questions for us, we're going to go back to work.
I think we're good.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We have someone new this evening from Tualatin Valley Water District. Her name is Lindsay Watchnick. She just started with the district really very recently, and we're very happy to welcome her to CPO1. Let us know what's going on with TBWD.
Oh, thank you, Virginia. I appreciate it. And I will do my best following the firefighters. I know it'll be a hard act to follow. So good evening, everyone. My name is Lindsay Wapnick, and I am the Tualatin Valley Water District's newest outreach and engagement specialist. So thank you for having me tonight. TVWD, or the Tualatin Valley Water District, we're responsible for serving water to customers living, working, and playing in CPO 1 area and several other CPOs throughout Washington County. I just wanted to share some quick information about some upcoming water infrastructure projects in CPO1 area, our future water system, and then offer some resources on irrigation. So this spring, we are going to continue work on the Barnes Road pump station project and then begin the West Lawn May replacement. The Barnes project includes building a new pump station on Southwest Barnes Road, and that has been complete, and that will serve customers in the, is it Catlin or Caitlin Crest area, as well as the Beaumont neighborhoods. Next, we're going to plan on decommissioning the old Caitlin Crest and Beaumont pump stations. Oh, go ahead.
Probably the Catlin Gable School. So it's
Yeah,
Oh, gotcha. Catlin.
It's not clear how you pronounce that.
Oh, it's not.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you all know what
Anyway.
I'm talking about.
So that's further
Yeah.
down Barnes from our area, Cedar Mill.
Exactly.
So up
Yes.
closer to the school. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So we're going to be decommissioning those old pump stations and then restoring landscaping there in the area. And then we're going to be doing a replacement of a water main, but that's going to be kind of further in 2024. So I'll make sure to give you all updates before that occurs. And then the West Lawn project, excuse me, we're going to be replacing about 460 feet of water main on Northwest West Lawn Terrace from about 128th to 130th. And again, both of these infrastructure projects are strengthening our system. So that's always a good
in
thing.
the Terra Linda neighborhood.
Oh,
which
is that right?
the heart
Okay.
of Cedar Mill.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha. Okay.
I've had my eye on that, and the guys have been promising me an article. So
Oh, good. Good to know, Virginia. I'll make sure that happens.
thank you. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of our future, because, water providers, we're always looking, 50 to 100 years in the future, because we want to make sure that we're meeting water demand now and we're preparing for years and years to come. And perhaps most of you have heard about this. I hope you have. But TVWD is partnering with the cities of Hillsborough and Beaverton. We're actually developing the Willamette River at Wilsonville, so not further down in Portland, but at Wilsonville as our future water supply source. And also along with that, we're constructing a water system that's going to deliver that water to customers by 2026. So a lot of work going into that project between the three partners. And over the next couple of years, you're going to hear more and more from us about our work to prepare our existing system to connect with a new water system, and then also deliver the new water from the Willamette River after it's treated to our customers. So watch for that. And then just one other thing to mention. I know I'm kind of taking up a lot of time, but
No, you're fine.
Oh, good. Okay. Next month, we're going to be hosting a virtual forum. We like to call it Talk and Water. That's going to provide some tips on turning on and tuning up your outside irrigation water system. So, I mean, us water nerds, that's very fun. So if you'd like to join, that's going to be on Wednesday, May 8th at 12 noon. And if you're not able to attend in person, that's no big deal. We're going to record that forum and then host it on our YouTube channel. And you can watch it afterward if you'd like. And I think Virginia and everyone, that's the updates I have, but I do have a little flyer with all this information I'd love to send you and maybe include in the notes if you find it helpful.
You can post links in the chat if you want to.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Virginia. I appreciate it.
I was just going to mention that Justin Dyke came to Cedar Mill Business Association meeting and shared a bunch of useful information last fall about how to turn your system off.
Oh, yes.
And that was really helpful. I learned a few things.
Oh, good.
And so it will be approaching the time for turning your irrigation system back on. So
that's right. Yeah, we're getting into the warmer months.
They can be a real source of water leaks and all manners of problems. And with our horrible freeze this year, I think it's extra important that people understand when they turn their irrigation system on, they may have some geysers in their yard.
That's a
because
good
of,
point. Yeah.
of systems that weren't turned off during the freeze and burst pipes and stuff. I mean, the household pipes is one thing, but all those irrigation pipes that are either on the surface or not buried very well can really suffer in freezing weather. So let's hope this doesn't happen, but that sounds like a very useful little program to offer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Virginia, I want to jump in here. We mentioned the chat, and legal limitations prevent us from turning the chat on for the attendees of this meeting.
Correct.
So
they can't even see it?
Virginia, let me finish. So what we do is we capture the chat, all the information in the chat, and then we publish that on the CPO1 Facebook page. So any of the contact information or links to activities, you can go to our CPO1 Facebook page and get them.
Oh, wonderful. Good to know.
Thank
and
you for that clarification, Bruce.
I'll
All
stick
right.
the links in there. Thanks, Virginia and Bruce.
You bet. The only remaining service provider agency that we have at the moment is the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And we have a couple of different people from that organization. So go ahead and turn your cameras on and let's hear from you.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to pass it to Sheriff Massey first, if she would like to present first.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, first of all, and I really appreciate being here. There's just a few updates that I want to give you. There's a lot happening in your sheriff's office right now. The least of which is that I was appointed in December. And so I wanted to give everyone a heads up of what you can expect from your sheriff's office in the near future and then going forward. Our biggest issue right now that I am working to prioritize is the retention of our extraordinary staff. We have to do more to make sure that the people who are serving each and every one of you in your communities know how valued they are and how important they are to our mission and to our office and to our community. With that, we are also prioritizing our recruitment. You may or may not know that the jail has 3 housing units closed currently due to short staffing. As a result, our jail staff are working so many hours, and they're being fortified by our patrol staff. Our patrol staff is coming into the jail. They are working extra overtime in addition to their shifts out on the road. And so everyone is kind of huddling up and working as a team together to get through this season. On my end, we are hosting a hiring workshop this Saturday. We have over 160 people who have signed up to attend, and we have hired an outside contractor, All-Star Talent, to help us make sure that we are communicating, marketing, and sharing what a noble mission we provide to people who might want to get into this public service field. So what I really need from you all, though, is to help us with that. If you have friends, family, friends of family, who might be interested in serving in any capacity, please send them our way. It is my priority to make sure that our folks serving in the jail and on the street have qualified, competent partners so that they can gain a better work-life balance. Our folks are working on the street and in the jail far more than they are spending with their families. And we've got to turn that around a little bit. Let's see, we are building some staff appreciation events and finding ways to bring new energy into the sheriff's office. So you can certainly look for me to be looking for creative ways to support our staff so that we can make sure they are physically, mentally, and emotionally well, because I know that if our teams are well, they will serve well. And so again, I just ask you to help me in that. When you see our staff out there, please let them know how much you all appreciate them. in the same way that I'm doing every day in our hallways and in my travels. I want to stop there and leave it open so that you have some time to ask any questions you have of me.
Hi, welcome to the meeting. We're really glad to see you.
Thank you.
We had some folks, we have a very active Cedar Mill News Facebook group
Mhm.
that all of our neighbors can post to. And someone was discussing some folks that appeared to be homeless and living in some bushes by the corner of Cornell and Saltzman. And I found that a little implausible because there isn't a whole lot of bushes there. But I mentioned that they should call the non-emergency number because I know there's a whole protocol that was developed a couple of years ago with offering services to folks and trying to get them out of a situation where they're, because people don't always understand what's going on and they feel threatened.
Sure.
And we don't want the neighbors to feel threatened here in Cedar Mill, but we also know that there's some real problems out there. So maybe you could clarify for us what happens when you are led to check a location and that you find some folks that seem to be camping in the public space.
Okay, that's a really good question. I will tell you, we have a couple different resources for that. First of all, we actually have a deputy assigned to a houseless outreach program. We call him the Hope Deputy, and he works alongside housing to identify spaces for people to go. And Washington County also has an ordinance that covers the time, place, and manner under which people can camp in public locations. And I think and I might be off on this a little bit, so you might be able to help me a little bit here, Elliot, but I think it's like 7 or 7:30 in the morning that they have to be relocated by. And it might be like 9 o'clock in the evening, but I'm not 100% on it.
I'll be completely honest. I don't run into that situation that often, so I'd have to look it up myself. But I know there's resources and a plan of action for dealing with this. Generally speaking, when we get called out to this, they're mostly not dangerous people. They are transient and they need somewhere to go. So we give them the option to go to housing units. Like there's one where the Beaverton library is. So we offer those resources to kind of not only get them resources, also to kind of maintain the peace and order in the community.
Absolutely. Thanks for the assist, Elliot. I appreciate you. What else can I answer?
That's more or less what I told the folks, so I'm glad.
You're the expert, Virginia. Well done.
I do my best, as we all do. Any other questions for our sheriff's office representatives? We've got a good group here. Come on, somebody's got a question, don't you?
And let's be very clear, I am not the expert. It's all Elliot.
Okay. I do not see any hands. Oh, wait. One of our attendees has their hand up. John Moran, I'm going to allow you to speak.
Yeah,
Go ahead, John.
a few years ago, just a minute, sorry. A few years ago, I went through something called the Washington County Citizens Academy. Does that still exist?
Yes, sir. We do still have a community academy. In fact, when we went through COVID, we continued to do it even virtually. But Megan, do you know when our next community academy is? And I don't actually know if it's already scheduled.
So
Okay.
it is not currently scheduled. It'll be coming up hopefully either in the fall or early next year just because of scheduling.
Yes, no, I totally get it. But you're correct, John. That is it's a valuable academy, and it really lets community members come in and see how we do business and what our job entails. So we will continue to make that a priority.
It was very, very interesting, and it really can give you a wonderful insight into how special the Sheriff's Department personnel are.
Thank you for that feedback, John. I couldn't agree with you more.
Thanks, John. I just want to remind people that I believe it's in May, the canine trials, and I've been meaning to go to that every year, and something always seems to come up, but I've got it on my calendar this year, and I'm really hoping to do that.
I hope you will as well, because I will tell you the canine trials are every single year, they are our most attended event, and they are the most fun. And I'll be there this year for sure.
Well, and I constantly see our canines out there doing their job, and I mean, I'm sure that there's a great deal of the work that the Sheriff's Office does that would be much more difficult without those dogs.
Agreed. They're excellent partners. In fact, fun fact, we just started a program where we will have a canine assigned to the jail full-time as a drug detection dog. So primarily focused on fentanyl, because fentanyl in custody is becoming a really large, significant problem. And so we have a dedicated canine that will have a jail deputy as a handler, and they are still part of the patrol canine program.
That actually leads me to a follow-up question, which is how much of a problem is fentanyl in Washington County? I mean, we hear about it in Portland all the time. I'm sure it's here.
Yeah, it's our biggest problem, Virginia. In fact, hands down. One of the reasons I think that you don't hear about it being such a big problem as much as you might is because our staff has made life-saving a full-time job with their deployment of Narcan when they're responding to overdoses. In fact, we have staff that have responded to the same person overdosing and administering Narcan and saving their lives, not just once, but twice. And but our West Side Interagency Narcotics team has been very successful in significant interdiction efforts and getting a lot of this off the street. But as soon as some of it's off the street, it's replaced by more. So it is one of our biggest problems, and it is our biggest threat to adults in custody in our jail.
Well, thank you. That takes us right up to our time limit, unless somebody else has a question for our sheriff's folks. I think Pam, yeah, you bet. We got a couple minutes. We got a little bit of loose time.
I just want to thank Sheriff Nancy for being here tonight. I know her schedule is very busy. I want to thank Elliot for being here, and I believe we have another deputy online, and I really second what Caprice is saying in terms of when you see our deputies out on the street, when you see them, at a coffee shop or whatever, please go up and say hello, and please express your appreciation. Right now, it's incredible what the staffing constraints are, both for the deputies and at the jail, and the deputies at the jail. It's a significant issue that is felt across the nation, but that doesn't make it tolerable for us here. And so what I want to really underscore what Sheriff Massey said about the fact that our deputies are spending more time on the job than they are with their families. And in some cases, it's not their choice to take the overtime or whatever it may be. It's out of true necessity. So these people, these men and women are really going above and beyond for the public safety that we all enjoy. And I just really encourage you to give a shout out when you can, and please be aware of the stress and strain that they're under right now. So thank you for that.
Commissioner, yeah, I've got it. Thank you sincerely.
I've got to say, you know, in my younger days, I didn't regard the police as my friend. That all changed when I got to Washington County, because we get help, we get guidance, we get information, and almost without fail, we get respect, and we get what we need from our public safety people. Okay, well, it's time to move on to the next part of the show, and that is CPO 1 updates, of which I have quite a few. I will put a link in chat, which you will be able to look at later, and that's a link to the March meeting YouTube video. We simulcast our programs on YouTube, and then they're available later on for viewing for all those folks who have something better to do on a Tuesday night. We can't imagine what that would be, but we're willing to believe that there might be something. The next link that I'm going to put in is to the CPO News in the April issue of Cedar Mill News, and people are discovering that that's where a lot of the development information is. Everybody's always interested in what's coming to their neighborhood, what's going in down the street, what's going to happen with their roads and with their their neighbor's property. And that's the number one, well, number two, number three. It's always right at the top of what people go and look at when the new issue of Cedar Mill News comes out. And we're putting most of that into CPO News because the CPO gets that information, and the specific reason we get the information is so that we can share it with our neighbors. So I'm going to just share my screen here for a minute, because I've got images of a variety of development applications. This one was approved with conditions. This is a partition. This was the original house, and I guess an outbuilding to the original house. And they have approved a 4-lot partition with a street, with a private street going up the middle. And the county has conditioned them to build a half-street improvement on Northwest 113th. They have to dedicate part of the property as public right-of-way, and then build a half-street improvement, which includes sidewalks and street trees. It's going to look a little funny on Northwest 113th, where there's none of that, or for the most part, none of that. But the county does that because eventually the 113th is meant to be a full-blown collector with sidewalks and street trees all up and down its length. And so when the opportunity arises with a development application, the developer is conditioned to provide those kinds of improvements. And now I'm going to the next item, which is, well, actually, that's not the next item, but I'll talk about that too. The Kenny to Thompson road project is getting underway. The county commission is just about to choose a contract. Well, they have chosen a contractor. They're just about to sign the agreement. And what I found was really interesting is the detour that's planned. And I believe it's centered on this area here. This particular map is talking about how parents can drop their kids off at Findlay Elementary, because this is all going to be closed off. But it's a good illustration of the general project. And I'm just going to read the paragraph about the detour that appeared in the board agenda. it says to facilitate the realignment of Thompson Road, 2 road closures will be necessary. The first closure will be 75 calendar days to make the connection to the new alignment on the west end of the project, which is here. So instead of Thompson going up here and connecting across here as it does now, Thompson is going to go across diagonally across through that subdivision. The second closure will be 30 calendar days to make the connection of the new alignment to the Thompson-Saltzman intersection. Pedestrian routes will be maintained during the closures. And then this was the part that set me back. A vehicular detour route will be posted directing vehicles and bicycles to use West Union Road, Bethany Boulevard, Cornell, and Saltzman, so that while this detour is in effect, we're going to be asked to go all the way to Bethany over here, to go down Bethany to Cornell and back up to Saltzman. And maybe that's the best they can do, but I just imagine a lot of pollution that gets added to our atmosphere from that. The next item that I have on the list is a proposed partition for Southwest Taylor and Southwest Salmon. So there's Salmon Street, there's Taylor Street, Southwest 95th. And so this would be access to parcel 2, and they're closing. The existing house is going to be demolished. And so this lot would access Taylor, and these 2 lots would access Salmon. Then the next one, I didn't get the image from that. The French International School. I'm going to stop the screen share because I don't have that image. The French International School, which is down on Cornell near Miller. The most of the school is in Multnomah County, but one end of it, the west end of it, and the access to it is in Washington County. And the neighbors have, in addition to the 9 new buildings are proposed for the French American, it used to be French American, but now it's the French International School. 9 new buildings. I didn't get any information except a photograph of the sign that was posted from Multnomah County. But the neighbors are requesting a crosswalk, a marked and even probably one of those flashing signals, requesting a crosswalk across Cornell. It's very, very close to the county line, but the neighbors have determined for sure that it is in Washington County, and they've started a petition, and I don't blame them. That's going to be putting a lot of pedestrian traffic across Cornell there in a busy section where people are generally speeding off to one destination or another and not thinking about pedestrians. Are there any questions about any of that? I'm sorry, it was a little quick whip through of all the development applications we've had recently. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, I recommend that, let's see, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Close the whiteboard, whatever. So this is what CPO News looks like in the current April issue. We talk about our CPO meeting. We talked about the CPO 7 meeting, which is finally the CPO 7 starting back up again, and we're thrilled about that. And then we have various types of, oh, there's the picture. That was all I had to get information. I need to follow through on this, but that was all we had. Pam, yeah.
I know you can't see when you've got you sharing your screen, you can't see all of us. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, But if you'd like
No.
me to assist you in getting in contact with the French International School, I'd be happy to do that. I've met with their director. I've met with members of their school board about this. And I will tell you that currently I live very close to that area. And currently they have flags on either side of Cornell because so many people do cross the street there. So it is an issue that has to
Right.
be addressed. So I just want you to know that
Right.
I'm very well aware of it. If you have questions, I can certainly put you in touch with the right people there.
Great. I don't know if it's in your purview, but if you are on Facebook, we'd like to invite you to join the Cedar Mill News group because, you know,
I'm already in it. I'm already in it.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, feel free to chime in when you know more than we do.
Well, yeah, I don't chime in.
I'm not promoting it. Honestly, I'm not, because,
Well,
you know, Cedar Mill News doesn't get any revenue from a Facebook group. It's just an extremely useful way for folks to stay in touch. It grew exponentially during the January storm because we were sharing information about how to light your fireplace.
I will tell you that I've heard from many constituents about the value of the information that's available there and the fact that it was extremely helpful during an emergency situation. So my thanks to everybody involved. I'll go off camera, but as far as the French American School, please let me know if you have any questions.
Great. It was challenging when my power was out. Okay, well, the next segment of our meeting, unless there's any questions about that quick whip through I did of all that stuff, is the open mic called It's Your CPO. And before we open it up to our neighbors here, Stacy Wainwright, who has been very, very much involved in the Thompson Road Marcotte to Salson segment, sent a message. She couldn't make it because their HOA was meeting tonight, and you don't want to miss an HOA meeting if they're going to be talking about important stuff. She said the Thompson Road project is being placed on the agenda for a Washington County Board of Commissioners work session in the afternoon of May 21st. If this roadway is not straightened, and we have no indication that LUT is going to straighten it, it needs to be widened beyond the proposed width to allow for the true separation of bikes from automobiles on a clearly dangerous curve. And she attached pictures of the damage from a single car accident where a car left the roadway on the curve in the fall of 2023. And I'll go ahead and share that. There you go. So somebody left the road and dented the bricks. And what she went on to say was, let's let the Board of Commissioners know that safety is important to us. And she's suggesting that neighbors review the materials posted online by May 16th at 3 p.m. to see if more information is available. Go to the regular BCC board meeting in the morning and give oral testimony. Everyone has the right to make oral testimony at the beginning of the Board of Commissioners meeting, and to write letters or emails by May 20th, and listen to the work session and watch online. The work sessions are not, they don't allow public comment, but people can watch them. People can write to the commissioners before the meeting to provide additional information. And then people are allowed to make public testimony during the regular board meetings. So people are still concerned about that. And I know I tried to make a left turn from, oh God, what's the name of the street? I can't think of it. But from the northern side onto Thompson, and I felt like I was taking my life in my hands because you just don't have the kind of visibility of the road coming uphill from Salzman that would make you feel confident for making that left turn. And I sure hope that the clever people at LUT have figured this out.
I just want to underscore what you said, Virginia, that it's really important to get your comments in. And I would strongly encourage people to provide written comments ahead of testimony, because that really does help. And I can guarantee you that every one of us reads those. So I strongly encourage you to provide written testimony. An email with a couple paragraphs is sufficient. It doesn't have to be a formal letter or anything like
Right.
that. So,
Right.
but
And
I
it
appreciate
is.
that.
I mean, people aren't used to writing letters these days, but it's helpful to the board because they need to know stuff that we know that they may not know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, I has anybody got any additional? Oh yes, Bruce, tell us about the Cornell cleanup.
Well, with Virginia's enthusiasm starting the Cedar Mill Community Club, we took a survey in the first meeting to find out what people were interested in doing, and cleaning up the neighborhood was right after lighting the holiday tree. So we've got in coordination with the group Adopt One Block. There's a man named Frank Moscow that runs it. I've been in communication with him and gotten the sort of overall directions, and they donated gloves and pickup tools and bags and God forbid we need it, but a sharps container. And we will be meeting at 1 o'clock on Sunday, April 21st, in the parking lot across the street from the Sunset High School. And we will.
I put up the poster that
I see that.
created, and if anybody wants to quick snap that QR code, it'll take you to the Facebook event page for our event. And I've been working on an after party at Wildwood with pizza from Pop Pizza, and I'm assured that it should be no problem. So we'll go up and down Cornell, and then we'll gather at Wildwood to celebrate our community spirit and our nice, clean street.
Boom.
Anything else? Darn, we're right on time, Bruce. Can you believe this? All right. What is on our May primary ballot? We've invited representatives to explain. Let's see, do we have Holly Thompson? We have Juan Carlos, promote to panelist. Did we end up getting, what did I just do? I don't see Holly Thompson here yet. So let's go ahead and go to Cassandra Owen.
Hello, I am Cassandra Ulvin tonight. Corinne Haining, a public affairs officer with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. I will share my screen. Let's see. There we go.
Sorry.
That's okay. I think I have.
I'm juggling at the moment.
No problem. Whoop. Is everybody able to see that?
Yes.
Perfect. All
dramatic.
Right. Well, thank you so much for having us. I will try to move through it quickly so that there's time for questions at the end.
Before you start, Corinne,
Yes,
I just
yes.
wanted to mention that we have been advised that and I guess any public employee is not allowed to advocate
Correct.
for a ballot measure.
Correct.
All they're allowed to do is explain it.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to be getting this evening.
Yes, correct. So
Sorry.
no, that's okay. I appreciate you saying that. Yes, because I am on duty, this is information only, and I will do my best to provide a balanced, neutral perspective. I'm planning to include a little bit of information, district overview and winter weather response, and then some information about our levy at the end. All right, so just as a refresher for folks, TVFNR, our service area is 390 square miles. We serve 11 cities and parts of 4 counties. So most of Washington County, and then slices up north, a little slice of Multnomah County, some of Clackamas County, and then a piece of Yamhill County in the south. We have 29 stations, 28 of which are fully staffed by paid employees, firefighters and paramedics, and one that some of our volunteers help to respond out of for incident support. And just this past year in our service area, we reached just over 550,000 residents. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. Just have a lot to move through, but this is we use data to help inform all different types of things, from the siting of future stations to, as Lieutenant Peters mentioned earlier, where we place certain apparatus and where we decide to have personnel be placed throughout the district. For Washington County, last year alone, we responded to 48,447 incidents. And if you look in the column that's farthest to the left that says EMS, about halfway down the page where it says situation found, almost 75% of the calls that we respond to have some type of EMS or medical component. So that percentage is a little bit higher right above that, what it was dispatched as, or as information was coming in from the person who called 911. It might have been a little bit higher of what they thought they were seeing. Maybe they thought that a person was unconscious and they were just in a deep sleep. So anyway, the situation found is still 75% of the calls that we run on have a medical component. And when it comes to fire, it's actually a pretty small percentage, and this is consistent throughout the district. So Washington County, it ended up being 2.3% of the calls last year. And that is pretty these figures both are pretty consistent district-wide. Anything else that I'll touch on? If you look near the bottom, day of the week is all pretty standard. And then hours of the day, you'll just notice that the calls start to creep up during people's waking hours. So around 6 or 7 is when we start to see that call volume tick up throughout the day. And then, as people go to sleep or their activity sort of calms down, then that call volume goes down a bit. I'm seeing, let's see. Okay, nothing in the chat yet. Whoops. There we go. So it has already been referenced at least once tonight, but it's still fairly fresh in all of our minds, the winter storm that we all weathered together. So particularly when there's an weather event that is anticipated, that meteorologists are letting us know is pending or incoming, the few days advance notice that we have becomes an all hands on deck effort as far as our preparedness to help get, whether it's upstaffing additional response units, equipping the units we have and the stations with extra traction devices, extra food, water, both at the stations and on the units, so that we're able to maintain that reliable response that our community members have come to expect and that they deserve. At any given point throughout the year, we have 4 predetermined incident management teams, and those are pre-designated groups of people who can be activated if there's either a critical incident or an event that is going to take an additional or extra response and resources, but doesn't draw away from the needs of our daily operations for emergency response. So at this particular time, we already had 2 that had been activated, one for some mold that had been found in a station in Newbury that was needing to be remediated, as well as the planning of a memorial service for one of our fallen firefighters at the beginning of the year. So an incident management team was activated to help respond to the winter weather event. So our 3rd of 4 that were active at that time. That also included activating our fire operations center, which is very similar to a county's emergency operations center, just sort of the fire mirror version of that, which also allowed us to then coordinate more efficiently with our local and regional partners. A little bit of data from that time. You can see from on that first day that the ice hit on January 13th, our call volume slightly just over tripled an average day of calls in 2023. So any given day, an average call in 2023 was around 164, and that first day of the ice storm ended up being 504 calls. And you can see kind of that gradual tick down over the next several days, and then that bump up on Wednesday the 17th. And that was when the ice started to melt. And as Virginia referenced, all the different burst pipes. So that was that uptick again on the 17th. Because of the enormous call volume that was coming in on the 13th, we actually moved into major emergency operations mode, which then allowed us to prioritize calls that had a life safety component to them. So on a given day, when things are running sort of as expected, whenever a person calls 911, and it's a fire or medical, has a fire medical component to it, then crews are dispatched to that call, no matter what the call type is, as resources are available. But on this particular day, over the next 6 days, the major emergency operations allowed us to prioritize those calls that had the highest need, and those calls that were lower need just still warranted a response, but maybe had a little bit longer of a wait time. So there was also a fire defense liaison that was staged at WACA, or the 911 dispatch center, helping with dispatchers to help triage those calls. And the top 3 dispatch types, you can see that those terms are a little bit general, but as you can imagine, it was all different types of calls. So whether it was burst pipes or trees in houses, gas leaks, commercial fire alarms, obviously number 1, and then the types of calls that we would normally run on. So still a high number of medical calls, whether that was more of the typical medical calls that we might see, as well as resulting from the ice storm. So a number of calls related to people falling on the ice, or people who were stuck in their homes and maybe didn't have the reserves of medications needed to help ride out the storm, or extra oxygen tanks, depending on what their condition and circumstance was. I'm going to blitz through these so I can get to the levy information and still have time for questions, but we just wanted to share with everybody that even with the preventative measures that we took, preparedness measures up front, we still at TVFNR experienced many of the same challenges that the community faced. From one of our crews had gone on a call of someone whose pipe had burst, and when they returned to the station, there was a pipe at the station gushing water over one of the firefighters' beds. So that crew was temporarily relocated to another station for a few days while that was mitigated. Several of our facilities also experienced power outages, like hopefully not, but maybe some of you on the call. And So just, figuring out how to navigate that while still being able to provide that emergency response for our community. And while all of this is still somewhat fresh in our minds, even though we're headed out of the winter season and sort of, at least on our end, into the summer months, that we're sort of on the cusp of, just asking folks to consider for yourself, how did that go riding out the storm? And what ways did you feel prepared? And what ways could there be, a little bit more stocking up or a little bit more pre-planning, whether that is your home emergency kit, a vehicle emergency kit, making sure, again, as was mentioned earlier, that you know where your water shutoff valve is, to have all of your devices fully charged if inclement weather is expected. And of course, there are resources and more information at our website. Excuse me. So the reason I'm here is to help give information about a measure that folks will be seeing on the ballot next month, Measure 34-332. And it is a local option levy that has been a part of what TVFNR has relied on and that voters have approved since 2000. And in Oregon, levies have a up to 5-year life cycle. So every 5 years, the levy comes before the voters. The levy will expire, and it comes back before the voters to decide if they wish to just continue to support it, renew it, replace it. So with this one, 34-332, TVFNR is proposing a 69-cent per $1,000 of assessed valuation. And just a reminder to folks that assessed value is almost always much lower than real market value. Each person, obviously, we encourage you to look at your own tax statement to see what that assessed value is. And because our service area is large, it's hard to really capture, an average, but we have an average just to give folks kind of a ballpark idea. So from that original map that you saw of assessed home value, of our service area, the average within our service area of a person's assessed home value is around $305,000. And with this proposed rate, it would be $210 per year, or about $17.54 per month. And if passed, the levy would help to retain existing firefighter and paramedic positions that the current levy funds. So that figure that the current levy is funding is at least 92 of our firefighter and paramedic positions. And it would also allow us to add 36 more. We know that in the last 5 years, the call volume has increased at 17%. And it would also allow us to purchase specialized medical equipment, such as cardiac monitors and defibrillators, along with critical firefighting tools. And some of our smaller rigs, whether that's shuttling water to help fight wildfires and helping to transport patients. And if the funding does not pass, it's not a, we can't say that exact figure would be cut, but we do know that reductions in staffing would need to be made. I will say that the current levy that we are operating in is due to expire in June of 2025. So if passed, this one would take effect next July, and taxpayers would not see it until their November property tax statement. I'm just doing a quick peek. Oh, the other thing I want to mention, then I'll happily take questions, is that we know, and we feel the budget creep as well, and we do not come before voters with this request lightly. The last 5 years ago, the rate the levy was renewed at the same rate. So it's been 10 years since there was a request for a replacement levy. And with the current rate that's proposed at 69 cents per $1,000, TVFNR anticipates not needing to ask for an increase again in 5 years. So we expect that to be able to maintain at this rate for at least 10 years. So that allows for long-term planning on our agency side as well as on our community members side. I will stop my screen share so I can see you all, and I see a hand from Bruce.
Hi,
Yeah.
yeah, 2 questions. I was wondering, is the call volume increasing faster than the population that you serve is increasing?
That is a good question. I don't know that I know the answer right off the top of my head.
Okay. A 17% increase in call volume is dramatic.
Yes, and I'm happy to go back. I'll pop this slide back up. Let's see if I can, whoops, sorry. I forgot to do the screen share part. I'm just gonna bring up that incident data shot again. So if you look in the bottom right-hand corner where there's the bar graph of the last 5-year period, that 17%, to me, it's interesting that, you know, there's that dip in 2020 when everybody was just, you know, we were sheltering at home. People were reluctant to go to the hospital for fear of any kind of exposure. So people were at that time, less likely to be, in some cases, seeking out the medical care that they needed. There is, you know, between 2022 and 2023, it seems to have plateaued. Again, this is the data for Washington County. So for our district, the numbers are slightly larger, but still relatively similar. But with the current plateau that we're seeing from this, you know, the last year or two, it's too little data to tell. Yeah, but from the 5-year capture, we know that it's 17%. And you said
the other question is a topic you haven't mentioned yet, but I'm curious if you have something to offer about the community paramedic program.
yeah, so what I can tell you is that the pilot has started as the beginning of this month. So we have 6 community paramedics that are in individual cars and responding to calls where it's you know, not high resource need. It might be a person who is calling 911 or maybe the non-emergency number for, you know, it could be a medical need, but oftentimes there are other greater needs as well. So that community paramedic really is helping to respond to that initial medical request, but then also working to connect them to other resources in the community. So we're hopeful, and the staff that have been trained, they're paramedics that were part of our personnel already, but they have been going through some community-based training over the last 3 months of the start of this year, and they're just, you know, very eager to get out and help with the reduction of some of our high utilizer calls. So we know that there are folks out there that overuse the 911 system, and this is our attempt to help mitigate some of that because it does impact the overall system response. So it, you know, it's good for the community.
Is the non-emergency number you referred to the same as the public safety, the 503-629-9111?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it 0111? No. Yes. Go ahead.
Is it 9? Is it 0 or 1?
Let me double check. I used to have it memorized. Yes, 629-0111.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to
Mhm.
put that in the chat so
Perfect.
people who go to the website can get it.
Yes.
Okay. So I believe Holly showed up in person down there with Bruce. And so we will go ahead and Corinne, go ahead and move to our next participant. And there she is. Hi, Holly.
Hello.
Long time no see.
Yes. Port Virginia, you've had me twice. Okay, let me turn my volume on here.
You're good.
Am I good?
Yeah,
They
you're
can
good.
see
Yes.
me? Okay.
No, our clever little microphone camera
Works.
combination does the job. I can hear you very clearly. And
Okay.
that's saying something for me.
Okie dokie artichoke. Forgive me, I'm going to am I still in the meeting? I am in the Zoom meeting. So I do have a PowerPoint. Virginia, what do you think? Should I do the PowerPoint or do it without the PowerPoint? What's your preference?
Well, normally we would, you can go ahead and send it to me if you like, or just send it to Bruce and he can put it right there on the laptop that he's using for the meeting, I believe.
She's in
Send
the
it to
meeting.
both of us.
Yeah, I'm in here, so I can share it too.
Why don't you try sharing it? Yeah.
Okay. Share screen. We get to that. And share. I'm just asking. Virginia saw me at lunch today.
We've got it.
And I did it without as well. So I was letting you have dealer's choice about how you want to do it.
If you can enable, yeah, slideshow, that's what we need.
Yeah. So there we go. We went too fast. Hi, everybody.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll do that so you don't have to see yourselves. Okay, I'm
Well
Holly.
done.
Okay, I'm Holly Thompson, Communications Director for THPRD. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all this evening. And just like Bryn from TVFNR, I am a public employee. I am on the clock, and I am here to provide information only about a local option levy that will be before about voters May 21st. I am not here to advocate or persuade. I am here to share information. Why is THPRD asking voters to consider a local option levy? What would the local option levy fund? And what would operations look like if the local option levy is not approved by voters? And as I want to echo my colleagues at TVFNR, it is a very tough time to be talking to voters about the need for a tax increase. Tax sensitivity is at an all-time high. I've done communications and community engagement work in the greater this area of Washington County my entire career, and I've never felt the sentiment out there like I do today. So I just want to say, please don't feel any pressure. My job here is to inform you about the why and the what. And your job as a voter is to make the best decision you can for yourself and for your household. And that's a personal choice. And that's your choice to make. So just want to start there. A little bit about THPRD. We are so proud to be your park and rec provider. We serve over 270,000 people. We're 50 square miles. Our origin is from 1955, when Elsie Stir and her friends went around the district and went around the community and said there is a better way to provide park and rec services. And this area deserves a dedicated government that focuses on park and rec services. And from 1955, serving 3,000 people, we have grown to a large park district, 50 square miles. We have 6 recreation centers, 8 swimming pools, more than 250 sports fields out in the community, baseball, softball, soccer. We have 70 miles of trails, 162 natural areas, and we are so privileged to serve all ages and all abilities at THPRD and help people find their health and wellness through keeping an active, healthy lifestyle. So today, we're looking at a operating shortfall that the district is looking at. Within 5 years, that operating shortfall will grow to $16 million or 21%, $1 out of $5 in our operating budget. Now, I want to be clear, an operating budget is just that. It is the general fund that we use to operate the district every single year. It pays for the salaries for the professionals who take care of our parks, our trails, who service those property amenities to make sure that they're in tip-top shape, to service those fields to make sure they're ready for youth and adults to play on. And it pays for the folks inside the facilities that operate the programming, the summer camps, the aquatics lessons, and so much more. The operating budget pays for the lights, the water, the materials and services, the things that we use to buy to operate the district. It is not the funds to buy new property. It is not the funds to redevelop property. It is literally the funds meant to operate the budget year over year. What does a typical THPRD budget look like? Give or take, on an average typical year, our budget is just over $70 million in operating expenses. And where do our revenues come from? 2/3 of our revenues, 2 out of every $3, over 60%, comes through the generosity of property taxes. The next largest fund comes from program revenues. So that is what you and I pay when we register for classes or activities or programming at THPRD. And after that, it's pretty miscellaneous. Cash carry forward bugs me. Nobody budgets like government. It's very confusing. Most agencies keep a healthy cash carry forward around 12 to 15%. The reason behind it is because fiscal years run from July to June. Taxes are not collected and roll in until November. So every government agency has to have enough funding to start a fiscal year until those taxes come in November. Always a question. So I apologize. We're going to talk a little bit of history. But we're going to talk about what's putting pressure on the THPRD budget and what is contributing to that potential $16 million shortfall within 5 years. And that story begins with our choices as voters in the 1990s. So the 1990s was a time of major property tax reform. We saw measures in California, Oregon, Washington, and the sentiment was voters wanted to see local control of taxes. They were tired of the growth in taxes. They were tired of how much they were, and they wanted to give voters the control to stop runaway tax growth and to control how it grows in the future. So we passed Measure 5 in 1990 as Oregonians, and in 1996, we passed Measure 47. Measure 47 had technical glitches, could not be implemented. So the legislature said, we got to give the voters what they want. We're going to have to adopt Measure 50. And the purpose of Measure 50 was to give us what we asked for in Measure 47, but it could be enacted. So what did it do, and why am I yakking about something that's like 26 years old at this point? And the reason is because it changed our tax system fundamentally, and those changes set the foundation for where we are today. The first thing that Measure 50 did is it cut all taxes for all local governments in the state by 10%. There were 1,400 local governments in Oregon at that time. Every single one saw a 10% cut in their taxes. The second thing that it did is it established the concept, it divorced actually taxes from being a tax on your real market value and set up the concept of assessed value versus real market value. Bruce, I know I'm bugging you here, but I found a document on Oregon tax history that I'm going to send you after this that will explain that, Bruce, just for you. So,
See, it's taxable.
and it says assessed value all over it. So,
Except on your property tax.
which I can't edit, but there you go. We're having a side discussion. I apologize for that, y'all. So what Measure 50 did is it said, No longer will you be taxed on what your property is worth on the real estate market, right? Real market value is you put your house up on the market, what is it going to sell for today? And it said, we're going to tax you on assessed value. We're going to take all those 1,400 governments. Your tax rates are cut 10%, and that's going to be your operating rate. Prior to this time, every 4 or 5 years, all of those 1,400 local governments were going to the voters for operating levies every 4 or 5 years. Measure 50 stopped that for the most part and said, okay, you get assessed value now, and that assessed value can only grow 3% a year. So today, many of our properties, for example, I might put my house on the market, my house might be worth 500,000, but I'm probably paying taxes on a much smaller amount. The average assessed value of a property in the THPRD taxing area is actually $303,000. So assessed value has become very divorced from real market value. And because of that, those taxes only grow 3% a year. Now you can imagine if 2/3 of your budget was funded through property taxes, and those can only grow 3% a year, like if you go through years like we've had during COVID, where inflation was way high, really hard for your property taxes that are funding the majority of your budget to keep up with your expenses as an agency. There are also a lot of other pressures on our budget. And so I want to be really transparent. We have not asked for an operating levy since this change in the 1990s. This will be the first time that we are asking voters for an operating levy since that time. But because of going through the pandemic and because of a lot of the issues you see on this slide, they came at us like a tsunami, and all of it coming together at once really put this issue to why now, and why are we talking to voters now? The first thing I want to talk about is the impact of the pandemic on the district. When the pandemic started and we had to close facilities, you can remember none of us knew how long things were going to be shut down. Originally, we thought it was a week or two. Very quickly, we realized it's going to be longer than a week or two. Very quickly, we had to say goodbye to 800 of our colleagues, because if you don't have open facilities, you can't pay preschool teachers, you can't pay after-school teachers, you can't pay aquatics instructors, and the list goes on. 14 months later, when we were able to reopen those facilities, we couldn't welcome people back. We couldn't hire and attract talent because people could make more money with the labor market escalation at a Chipotle or at a McDonald's than what we could offer to pay at THPRD. So we had the pressure on the budget from the pandemic itself. We had inflation from what we're paying for the materials and services we're buying. We had more expensive costs with labor. We had to increase pay wages for part-time personnel and full-time personnel to hire and attract. And we had, like all other employers in Oregon, unfunded mandates such as Oregon paid leave, paid family leave, and pay equity that are good. These are wonderful things. We're leading with our values, but they cost money for employers and put pressure on the budget. So our board of directors last year put a task force together. These are some of the folks that served on our task force, and they asked them to take a deep dive under the THPRD budget. They asked them to look at, should we look at an operating levy? If so, what was the appropriate amount? And when should we go to the voters? And I have to say, this task force knew THPRD well. We had people on this group who have kids in programming, who participate in adult programming. We have Margaret Robinson on there, who is the daughter of Virginia Robinson, who was our 4th board member in history. And Margaret, the lady in blue there, she was 10 years old when in 1955, she walked Beaverton with her mom and Elsie Stern to lobby for the formation of the district. So it was really cool to have that energy in the room. For the task force, we went through a really detailed exercise where we asked our division directors to come in and explain How would THPRD services look differently? If we had 21% less money to operate the district every year, what would our services look like and how would we change? Our largest division is our recreation division. These are the professionals that work in our rec centers, serving the community, teaching classes, running the classes and the programming. Our rec professionals told us with 21% less budget year over year, they would have to close at least 3 swimming pools, at least 2 splash pads. We would have to eliminate our mobile recreation program, which is one of the district's top tools for serving underserved populations. We take the mobile rec out to communities where people can't make it in, senior centers, affordable housing projects. We go to all the school district free lunch distribution sites. We run all types of programming that is free, accessible, and culturally specific through mobile programming. We would have to eliminate our after-school programs. We would have to eliminate our preschool programs, and we would be looking at reductions in our facility hours across the board. We also looked at our next largest division, which is park services. These are the professionals that take care of our parks, our trails, and our natural areas. And with their reductions in staffing, it would change their ability to get out into those spaces and take care of the upkeep and the maintenance. So you would see less maintenance in parks. You would see a slowdown in garbage collection. Some of our parks that are served every week would move to potentially every other week, some stretching out even longer. We would be closing restrooms throughout the district because we wouldn't be able to clean them and service them as often as we need to. And we would have significant reductions in our capital replacement budget and not be able to take care of routine maintenance and repairs as often as we need. Altogether, we would be looking at a reduction district-wide in a loss of 50 full-time personnel. We only have 200 full-time personnel, so that gives you a sense of like the scale of the impact. And we would also lose up to 250 part-time personnel. That number ranges between 150 and 250 because in the summer we carry higher employee loads than we do at other times of the year. Looking at all this information, oh, and I do want to mention on the park services, this was a really deep discussion in the task force. They talked a lot about slowdowns in capital replacement and repairs. One of the gentlemen on the task force works for Portland Park and Rec, but lives in the THPRD service area. He was very vocal about these types of reductions in a park system and the legacy impacts it can have in terms of livability and maintenance. So looking at public opinion survey information, looking about how highly likely voters feel about the question of investing in a THPRD levy, our task force ended up recommending that the board of directors pursue a 50-cent operating levy. That would be 50 cents per 1,000 of assessed value for 5 years. That translates into a cost of additional tax of about $12.68 a month or $152 a year. That's on the average assessed property in the THPRD service area. And I want to emphasize, you know, the real goal of this was to maintain what we have today. So this is not a growth levy. This is not about adding. This is about maintaining services as they exist today or otherwise seeing cuts in services. There is one small but important new additive in the levy, and that is the district did put in funding in the levy as to replace the registration system. So if you are a frequent user of our registration system, you might have some thoughts about it. We hear all the time from people that they'd like to see it replaced, and the levy would allow us to do that. And by the way, summer reg is this Saturday, April 13th. So don't forget, 8 a.m. So the task force, these were their recommendations. Yes, we should pursue a levy. These are the amounts. We talked about it. And they felt we should go to the voters as soon as we can in May. I'm gonna stop the presentation there because the rest sort of talks about the key messages, which we've already talked about, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Holly. I know that I mentioned during the CMBA meeting today that one thing that people who have lived in cities don't understand is that we're an urban unincorporated Washington County, and this is our only park district, and we don't pay for the park district through any city. So that's something to keep in mind. I also posted just a reminder that the deadline to register to vote in the upcoming May 21st election is April 30th. So keep that in mind if you've moved or if you're new to the area. And I posted a link to the voter registration form, which you can do online. But because we can't share that with our viewers, just Google register to vote in Oregon and you will find it. And now it is time for us to, are there any questions for Holly? It's time for us to hear from Juan Carlos Gonzalez, who is our Metro representative, and Metro is asking for a levy in regards to the zoo. Juan Carlos, I hope you're still awake.
Yeah, of course. Hey, everyone. I am here.
Thank you very much for attending, and
Oh, Virginia, of course.
please let
No,
us know what Metro wants us to
to consider here. Yeah,
yes.
sure. Give me 1 second while I don't have a fancy
Great.
PowerPoint today, but I
Thank you.
do have something to share on my screen. Can you let me know if you can see it?
We can see that.
All right. So, hey everyone, my name is Juan Carlos Gonzalez. I serve on the Metro Council and represent District 4, which includes this wonderful community that I also happen to live in and belong to, in this specific CPO. I just want to spend some time to talk about the bond program, the Oregon Zoo bond program. And I have two different PDF sheets here that I just wanted to talk through real quick. But I think that most folks in our community and in this region and beyond know the impact and the reach of the Oregon Zoo, the exhibits, the animals, the work, the events that happen there. But there's still so much more that happens beyond just what you see when you show up at the zoo, whether it's research in conservation, partnerships across the world, protecting critical habitats. Um, I want to spend some time talking about that and just sharing in general what the Oregon Zoo bond is for phase two. So first and foremost, I'm just going to kind of highlight across this document as I talk through it. But essentially, the first zoo bond was passed in the region in 2008, and uh, the bond at that point raised funds to help, as the sheet here shares, about 40% of the campus. The zoo had been a few decades old at that time and was quickly falling out of date in terms of the facilities that we had. And so if you've had the opportunity to visit, I think you get to see the huge benefits of what we've been able to achieve. Everything from the elephant lands to polar passage and primate forest, and also the education center, and a major emphasis to our veterinary medical center for animal care there. So the 2008 bond projects were delivered on time and on budget, and the success there has led us to want to come back to voters to ask for a renewal. This is not a tax increase, to continue making improvements for the rest of the campus. So as I want to draw your attention here to this beautiful little penguin. Right underneath the penguin, you'll see here that the 2024 bond will be a new phase of investments, prioritizing the values of animal well-being, inspiring educational experiences, infrastructure health, risks and readiness in terms of climate resilience or natural disasters, making sure that our physical facilities, everything is really ready for all the things that we can expect, and then continuing to align with the long-term goals and priorities of the zoo in terms of conservation, financial sustainability, and of course the employees and the staff that work there. So, page 2 here, just real quick. The zoo bond is seeking to raise $380 million in general obligation bonds. And we are hoping to do this by renewing the estimated average rate of 8.5 cents per $1,000 of assessed property value. Metro being our regional government, we serve 24 cities, 3 counties, very big area, and as such, we're able to raise significant amount of funds at very low rates comparatively. So we felt that this was something worth investing in. We've worked with local advisory groups and community engagement of what you can imagine to help put this together. And I guess just to kind of begin to wrap up here, we are working on, and I do have like some slides that I can probably share here. 1 second. Okay. So, thank you for your patience, everyone. Okay, I'm just gonna share this here. And how do I go to present? Wow, it's been a while since I've been on PowerPoint, it looks like.
I think slideshow will get you there.
Why can't I see it?
It's above where you,
Okay,
there you go.
slideshow. Okay, play from start. All right.
There we go.
Are you seeing it?
Oh, it looked better a minute ago.
Okay, I don't know what's happening. 1 second.
That's all right. We're good.
Yeah. Here, I'm using 2 monitors, so maybe it helps if I go to 1 monitor. Let's try this again one more time.
Okay.
All right.
Go up. Yeah, perfect. Beautiful.
Better?
Yep.
All right, we're
Then
doing
just
a
use
tag
your
team
back
here.
and
Thank you.
forward.
So these slides here, they already cover some of the information that I covered originally with the PDF. I just really felt like that. I like what information is presented so succinctly there, but the zoo has a tremendous track record. The 2008 bond, like I said, successfully implemented and has made improvements to 40% of the zoo. Again, here are some of the projects that were completed by the 2008 bond. And here you can see, I wanted to share the PowerPoint specifically for this image here, but you'll see that the future improvements for phase 2 will focus on the animal care, renewed areas in the zoo called the East Hub, South Hub, but specifically the existing sites of the Great Northwest, coastal shores, Africa, and then just basic facilities and maintenance of the site are all part of the plan here. Okay. And I also wanted to show this photo, which demonstrates the level of engagement done by Metro staff before the referral to engage different community organizations and different partners in putting together the zoo bond in a way that reflects the values of our region. Here you can see the ZAP teens, which are zoo interns, essentially, that the zoo is able to bring on board and help young people learn about zoo work, but also help engage community with animal care and things like that. And like I said here, which are some priorities, I'm just going to go through these here. Yeah, I think generally that's it. A lot of these things I already covered, but there's some great photos here. We want to make sure that the zoo is welcoming to all. And the zoo attracts over 1 million people a year here in the region from here and beyond. So I wanted to be short. I know it's very, very late, and I'm happy to continue to share more information with Virginia, but I hope folks feel like in general there's a good sense of information with what the zoo bond is, with the renewal rate. We are not increasing the tax rate with this. We're asking for folks to renew it and continue supporting and to help the next phase of improvements at the zoo. Thanks. Back to you, Virginia.
Actually, I got one quick question. It's
course.
called the Oregon Zoo. Does the state of Oregon contribute funds to the zoo?
The state does not allocate direct funds to the zoo. The zoo does have a very active foundation, which raises an amazing amount of resources. And it's really inspirational because I mean, there's a lot of it's a public-private partnership in so many ways, and that is where really the zoo is able to have some great flexibility to improve the site, to match the bond dollars, to make sure that we're moving on track and things like that. But the zoo also. I was also going to say the zoo does get some federal grants as well. For example, over the last 15 years or so, maybe longer, there's been a California condor restoration program, which has helped reintroduce a species that was nearly extinct. I think it's an excellent example of the conservation work that we've done there. And just last year, the Oregon Zoo released its first California condor back into the wild in Northern California, and it's just part of this work that we've been doing. It's really awesome.
It's come a long way since I first got here, which was in 77.
77,
And,
yeah.
Yeah. I've lived more than half my life in Oregon, but I'm still not an Oregonian. But...
Yes, you are. You are.
Yes, you are. Yeah, no.
Yeah, Bruce, don't let her get away with that.
No, Cedar Mill is a part of Oregon.
I mean, I took my children and they enjoyed the zoo, and now the grandchildren love the zoo. So it's an institution that we all treasure and I can say support the zoo.
Yeah.
I apologize if I missed this. Did you say anything about the zoo concerts in your talk?
I did not share anything in particular about the zoo concerts, but I did.
Those are marvelous cultural events. I mean, there's a wide variety of performers that show up.
Yeah. I mean,
even the Reeser run for its money.
Yeah, there's a lot of events that we're able to do there, from concerts to educational events to small breakout groups and things like that. We host a lot of folks that are on international tours that come through our zoo. We add our Oregon flair to the site, into the facility. It's special that it's nestled in Forest Park in Washington Park, and it's beautiful. And Virginia, I think that from maybe when you first went to the zoo to now, I mean the facilities are just world class.
But even then, they were very focused on the animals and not trotting them out for the people, but caring for the animals. And that's been a through point of the zoo all through this time. And I think it's what makes it a really magnificent zoo. Pam, you got a comment?
Yeah, Commissioner Treese. Hey.
I just wanted to say thank you to Juan Carlos for being here tonight, for being patient. I know it is a long night. It's a very important piece that you bring to us, and thank you for being here. And I also want to say thank you to Virginia and to Bruce for providing the platform of information for TVFNR, for THPRD, for Metro. It's very important that we have this information available to all of us. So thank you. And thumbs up here.
Holly gave a little bit more history during her presentation to the Business Association. And Bruce and I really delved into the whole concept of the urban unincorporated area and what it means to us. And one of the main things that it means to us is that there's no city to provide all these services.
Yeah.
And so we as taxpayers, we as residents and users of these services have to step up to the bat and have to support these groups to preserve our quality of life. It's, you know, if we love the way things go around here, and Juan Carlos, I didn't realize you were our neighbor. That's wonderful. Yeah.
The urban unincorporated area in Washington County would be the second largest city in the state
Yeah.
if we took the whole population.
It's
So,
about 200,000 people, isn't it?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
200.
Yeah. And Bruce and I did a 6-part series on how we got here and what it means. And I can't type it into the chat right now off the top of my head, but if you want to look up urban needs rural government, you'll find our series if you ever want to learn more. We need to update it, but you know, it's all we've got, and it's pretty darn good.
we wrote it in 2006, and a lot of the
Yep.
things still stand quite true. I mean, things that we
Right.
suggested might happen have happened.
Yep.
And here we are with a very
Here we are.
form of governance, very unique form of governance.
Yeah. Well, and it puts more weight on us, the citizens who are involved, to pay attention and do what we do. Let's just stop 3 minutes early. What do you think? I move we adjourn.
Let's do it.
Thanks everybody for coming. Oh yeah, what?
There was a note in the chat from Melissa Potter, Beaverton School
Yes.
Board member. Did you read what I didn't see what she said.
Oh,
She said she was
excellent.
here to observe,
Thank
not
you.
to say anything.
Yeah. She
Okay,
was just, she's been lurking. She wasn't here to speak about the school district, but she is a school district board member. She says, thank you all. As always, such an informative evening. I'm very grateful for all your work to bring us all together. Virginia and Bruce, I'm going to share just what you said to help advocate for our municipal partners. Thank you. And thank you, Melissa, for jumping in. So I move
It's really
we adjourn.
important. It's really important that our elected officials attend these. So my appreciation to
Thank you. That's why I added that, you know, our elected representatives are providing us a service. So I'm including them in our service providers. Good night, everybody.
Buenas noches.
And tell
Thank
your
Hey,
friends
grab
you enjoyed
the
this.
chat. Virginia, grab the chat. I can't seem to save it.
All right, everyone.
Oh, you
Take care.
bet.
Bye, Pam. Good to see you.
I saved it.